Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
And welcome back, everybody. Energy work, energy healing. What exactly is that? Where everything is energy. If you haven't figured that out, you might want to listen a little closer because this can really change your life. I, in my journey, discovered it, and it's amazing. Once you have that energy work done by a practitioner, energy healer. I found one for you. She's fantastic. Heather Lena joins us once again here on the program. Hello there.
Good morning. Hello. How is everybody today?
Doing real good, doing real good. Everywhere I go, I talk about energy and I try to help people understand what it is, what energy work is, what energy healing is. Sometimes you get a blank stare, got to be honest. Sometimes people sort of get it, but I guess why don't we go back to all the basics here?
Okay.
What we're talking about in terms of energy, how would you describe it?
Okay. So when we talked last, because we weren't able to connect last week, you asked me what energy work actually was. And I gave a basic generic answer. And then after I got off, I started thinking about it. My team started talking to me. And so the basis of energy work, I'm being told to give the analogy of a computer, right? Nowadays, everybody has computers, pretty much, or something electronic, right? Phone, same thing. So anytime a computer phone is created, it is given basically code that it runs off of, right? That's why IT people make all this money, because they write code, they do the code, everything is code. So your body runs just like a computer. So at the time you were born, you start being downloaded with code in your DNA, past life experiences, as you're going through the birthing process, all of this, you're downloaded with code. So what happens is, as we go through life, we get updates, right? We get new things added to us. But how many times do we actually reboot ourselves? How many times do we actually update ourselves? So if you are running on the old code of yourself and you haven't updated it, you're still running on your old code, right? So what we do is we basically take out the old code and we put in new code. And it makes so much sense, right? Because any electronic, we have to turn it off, turn it back on. We have to reboot it. We have to update it because, hackers get in there. They put all this nasty stuff in your computer. Ooh, I just got full body chills over that. Well, your body's the same thing. So you have all of this trauma, which I would consider a hacker, all of this, programming that was done by a quote unquote hacker or people around you that may or may not go with what your actual coding for yourself and your soul is. And so what we do in energy work is we basically release all that old code and we update you.
You know what? I've never heard it said that way. However, when it comes to traumas from our past, what do I mean by traumas? I'm talking about when, they could be little traumas, they could be big traumas. It could have been you got bullied on the playground when you were, I don't know, 8 years old. And that impacted your life in terms of your confidence and it gets put in your subconscious. And then you're running off of that old code, if you will, in your adult life. Is that kind of what you're talking about?
Yeah, and then some of that could be likened to like a virus as well. So you get viruses in your computer that allow people to breach your information, that allow them to lock you down, allow them to take you over, right? And so I liken that to like cord cutting. So if you've got all these people that are like attached to you, like a hacker would attach or a virus would attach to your computer, you want to unattach all of that. You really want to get it to where they're no longer attached to you and they're no longer breaching you and they are no longer doing this stuff to you so that you're able to release and move forward, right? all, and even with that, so as you go through like Reiki, energy work, any of that will release old stuff. So that is kind of like if you're stagnant, you're wanting to release that old energy, just like a computer. You're going to want to alt control delete that sucker, and you're going to want to start it over, because what does that do? That gets rid of all of that old stuff in there, right? Releases it so that the computer or yourself can actually start focusing and functioning better again, because you're all clogged up. The computer's all clogged up. So your DNA, your DNA accepts everything that happens to you. It writes it into your body. And so what we do, part of my energy work, is I go in and I do DNA work, where we go in, we release, we can go in, we can change. I just worked on a client who had had shingles, and we did belief work around that. And then I went in and actually witnessed some of the DNA being replaced, the virus being released. Because viruses actually hang on to belief systems. That's one of the reasons why they hang on to your body, is they can be attached, believe it or not, to belief systems that they don't want to let go.
Wow.
And so and I'll tell you, I was a person that about every 3 months I was getting sick, and I was like, okay, I'm sick to death of this crap. So I went in and I was like, we've got to figure out. So first of all, I started doing some research on bacteria and viruses, both. And both of those have like things that they will hang on to you, right? So you have to release what they're hanging on to in order for them to release from you. And so my healer went in and did a bunch of work on me. And you know what? I don't get sick every 3 months anymore, because we released that virus, we released that bacteria, we released it, and along with it, the beliefs that were holding on to it. So, I haven't been like sick every 3 months. And this is where energy work likens to your health, right? Where as we're working on your physical, your emotional, and your spiritual all at the same time. And so really, but again, likening back to the analogy of a computer, you do the same thing with a computer, right? So a virus, bacteria, you have to work through what it's hanging on to, get rid of it, release it, and then re-download new code to that computer so that it's not affected by that virus anymore. And so that's the crux of what I'm getting, is the best explanation of what energy work is. And it actually makes sense to me.
No, I'm getting it. I'm getting it. When you work with somebody, are you able to detect not the exact scenario that may have caused their challenges, but where it's coming from? What I'm getting at is the chakras, the different energy sources, 7 major chakras in our body. Are you picking up on that? Like, you got something here, you got something here, the
Sometimes I
third
do,
eye
yes.
chakra. Yeah.
So when I do a Reiki session is when I usually really pick up on that, because Reiki sessions are normally when I focus on the chakras, right? When I'm doing energy work, they come in with belief systems or a problem, and then we work through that. And then I go in and I rebalance the chakras, reopen, right? But in the Reiki, I actually can feel or see chakras that are blocked. I mean, I can do it during theta too, but it really comes available during the Reiki sessions. And then I'll say to them, your heart chakra was completely blocked, or your heart chakra did not want to stay open. And they'll be like, yeah, well, I had a bad experience, or I had this, or I had that. I get drawn to things. So I was doing a Reiki session on a client, and I kept being pulled to her right side. And I had asked if she had any issues that she wanted me to look at. She had told me no, but I kept being drawn to her right side. So when I got done, I asked her, I said, I keep being drawn to your right side. She goes, well, that's because I just suffered a broken arm and it's in the process of healing. And I didn't know, she didn't tell me that. I was just being drawn to that area to work on. But that led into something totally different. That guided us into a whole totally different spectrum of a healing that she's going to need to go through, which was dark energy clearing, because she had some other issues that were causing her some issues. So when I do these, what happens is we started with something, And then as it progresses, we move. So we don't stay stagnant in one area. So I may start here and then something else will come up and we'll go here. And then something else will come up and we'll go here. And then it'll bring out more issues or things that need to be worked on as we go through that process.
What modalities do you use? We talked about Reiki. What are some of the other ones?
I do Reiki. I do Theta Healing, which was created by Viana Stabile. And that one is my favorite one to do of the two. I am a Reiki master. But honestly, as a Reiki master, you are allowed to kind of change and create your own modalities. So what I do is I've taken what I've learned so far and I mold it into what I'm comfortable with and what my clients need. And so my modalities always shift. So if I'm doing a Reiki session, more than likely you're going to get more than a Reiki session during that. More than likely I'm going to do some theta, I'm going to do some chakra, I'm going to do, maybe dark. A lot of times I do dark energy clearing through these sessions. So that's the first thing I do is I clear everything. We get all of that cleared because all of that can impede the process. So because one of my niches is dark energy clearing, I usually do all of that in the first session. We try to clear all of that out first, and then we go into the next section, which is whatever it's supposed to be.
Sounds kind of scary, the dark energy. How do you define that?
So I call it's dealing with either dark spirits or oaths, vows, commitments, contracts, curses, right? So all of us have made contracts in our life, whether it was marriage, whether it was friendships, whether it was, whatever, right? Words have power. So if you hear people say words have power, words do have power. You create your own universe, right? So usually what happens is we have around us a lot of dark energy because there's light, but there's also dark. I don't call it evil. I call it dark, right? Because they have less light. It is what it is. But many people have some kind of a contract, oath, vow, commitment, contract, curse that is impeding them or requiring them to do something that they don't want to do or follow anymore. I have done house clearings where I've gone in and I have cleared dark energies from a house, from a person. And while it sounds scary, it's really, it can be scary for a person that's dealing with it. But for me, it doesn't bother me to go in and clear this stuff. Does that make sense? It's something that has to be done. It just is what it is. You live near a cemetery, you may have some spirits in your house. I may need to go in and clear them and put some boundaries up so they can't go in there.
I get it. Or if you're just, you're in some relationships, that maybe not supporting you as best as you could be or should be, you may be dealing with energy from them. And
people have dark energy on them. People have dark energy on them, and so and I hate to say that, but there are people who have dark energy on them, and you get around them and that dark energy wants to shift. I'm going to just say this, people, I don't drink alcohol. Okay. I don't drink alcohol. I've never been a fan of it. I don't like not having complete control of myself. And with alcohol and drugs, you don't get complete control of yourself, right? But alcohol is called spirit. We call alcohol spirits. They all have a spirit linked to them. So if I'm dealing with a person that has addiction issues, they have dark energy from alcohol, right? And so the first thing I do is remove all of those entities off of them to help them in their process of getting clean and staying clean, because they're there. Right?
It's funny. Universe is interesting. I never connected it being called spirits, and I'm not knocking anything here. However, I've found as time goes on, and I love craft beer. I'll have a couple of beers with my friend. I don't
right?
feel anything. I don't even get, nothing. Just I love the flavor. However,
Right.
the next day, and this is like in the last year or so, I don't feel right. And I think it's affect I've tried to eat better, cleaner, and all that. I think it's affecting my system. So in fact, I'm going out with some friends tonight. I've already resolved. I'm having water. I'm not even kidding. And I love beer. I love the flavor, but it's just
Be the
I
designated driver. That's why I always did Diet Coke. I'm off my Diet Cokes now because I did Diet Cokes for years. But if we were going out to the bar, I would just have a Diet Coke where it looked like I was having a drink, but I really was just drinking, something with caffeine. Because somebody had to be the DD. But again, for me, it was about, and now I understand that what it was doing was it was lowering my vibration when I was using it, right? So it was lowering my vibration, but I just don't like it. I don't like the feel of not being in control. But that's an example of having spirits on you or dark energy clearing, right? Which isn't really scary, and people don't think about that. But it's important to know that, especially for addicts that are trying to do recovery or actually trying or working on recovery, to know that if that's why they're having that problem. Come in and let's clear all those spirits, let's clear all those belief systems, let's clear all that so that you can move forward with that. And I have worked with people who have been, I've done work on people that have addictions, and energy work does work. It does work once you start using it and release it. Absolutely.
Is this similar to what I've heard cords where you got to cut the cords? You're still energetically connected to something or someone.
Yeah, I actually have gone in and I've actually disconnected people from their alcohol of choice, right? Because people many times have an alcohol of choice, brandy, whiskey, whatever it is. And so if they are trying to resolve that, one thing you need to do is you need to cut them from the bars. Then you need to cut them from, and actually, working on their self-esteem, where their self-esteem is not about hanging out at the bar and partying. Their self-esteem is about themselves. Okay. So even though Diet Coke is not a alcohol, right? It was my addiction. I had an addiction. And that's where addiction comes in. You can be addicted to anything. This farce about, oh, well, you can only be addicted to drugs or alcohol or maybe sex. That's not true. You can become addicted to anything. I was addicted to Diet Coke. It was my stress reliever. It gave me stature. It made me, I believed it made me look cool, right? To always have this Diet Coke in my hand. And we had to go in and literally work on my addiction of Diet Coke.
I get it.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
And it's
and as crazy as that sounds, right? And
mm-hmm.
for me, I haven't had a Diet Coke in over a year and a half, right? And I refuse to drink even a little bit because I tell people all the time I have a very addictive personality. And once I start, I can't stop.
Mm-hmm.
So now my addiction is sugar, and I'm working on trying to deal with this sugar addiction, right? Because I moved from one to another, and I just haven't actually sat down and worked through this whole sugar addiction yet. But it comes in, addiction comes in all different shapes, forms, sizes. And you just have to be able to say, I'm done. Was Diet Coke good for me? Absolutely not. That stuff is garbage.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it connected.
I totally get it. And I was hooked on diet soda for a while. Pulled off of that. Now it's seltzer water. I like the fizz, the bubbles,
Right.
that kind of thing. But there's chemicals in
Oh
diet
yeah.
soda. You think, well, it's good. It's not sugar, and
No.
yeah, it's better for me. I'm not getting those calories, but it also triggers you to eat.
It does.
Right.
Absolutely, it does.
Yeah.
The chemicals do, right? But the other part of my issue with Diet Coke was my dad got me started on diet soda. So I was working for him, and he would send me every day to go get him and my mom's sodas. Well,
Uh,
inevitably, the diet soda would be the one that was trying to spill all over my car. So I would have to suck it up.
hmm.
And so I had to work on that link to it as well. Does that make sense?
Totally. Yeah. It's
And so I had to rewrite my DNA. I had to rewrite my code so that I wasn't likening it to that anymore.
would you say that you have one session and you'll be better, one energy healing session, you'll be better. However, um, it's not an ending process. We're
Yes.
always changing all the time.
So what I tell my clients is, let's do this basic work, right? Let's chop off, if you're picturing a tree, let's chop off some limbs, right? And then when you're ready, when something else triggers, come back and see me, because what's going to happen is they're going to be processing, they're going to be working through it, they're going to be feeling really great. And then something will happen and they're like, oh, this isn't right. Okay. Something has changed, something has triggered. And so at that point, they need to come back to me so that we can work through that next process. Now, some of this stuff may take 2, 3, 4 sessions in a row. Some of them may take one, and then you wait a couple months and do another one. I do not tell people they have to come see me weekly. I don't do that. Number one, if they're not ready, it does them no good and it does me no good, right? So what I want them to do is I want them to take the healing we've done, process it, work through it, get through it. And then when they're ready or they have another issue come up, then come see me. Okay. Because it is a never ending process, but the healing that we do may last 2, 3, 4, 6 months before something else triggers them to the point where they're going to need to go in and have their DNA rebooted, quote unquote, again, right? So that they can continue to move forward. Each time it could be that, it could take one session, it could, and I'll tell people sometimes this can be a couple, 2, 3 sessions. But again, when you're ready to proceed after this one, then let me know. And I feel like that is the benefit of my services, because I'm not going to force you to come see me. I'm not going to force you to pay me all this money. When you're ready, book your session,
Oh,
because you've got to be ready for it. You've got to be able to accept it.
well, yes, and with anything, you have to want to heal and feel better. But I can say this, in before we met, having Reiki sessions a day later, feel so much better, lighter, more clarity. There's always something different, feel different
Yes,
in different ways, but it certainly you feel it. That's what
you
I'm going to
do.
say. So
You do.
for anybody that's on the fence, well, I don't know, I heard about this energy thing. Try it. It's not, you have nothing to lose. You don't have to do anything except
Right.
sit there. And actually, one of the most, I guess, prolific sessions I ever had was done by somebody that was thousands of miles away. And they just said, sit on a couch, be comfortable. I'll start about 8 o'clock. I'll text you when I'm done. The
That's a
stuff,
distance Reiki session.
oh my God, the stuff that she sent to me.
Yeah.
And we're out of time, but all I'm going to say, nothing revealing, but just a little bit about my personality and things that I enjoy that drive me and my Zen spots and all of that in my life. She said it. I found this and I wanted to share this with you. Nobody could have known that. And to me, she tapped into my energy. There's no
Yes.
doubt. There's no doubt about it. How do we
And
connect with you?
sessions can be done just like this. So if you're doing belief work, this is what you're going to see. It's going to be you and I sitting here talking, connecting, figuring this out, and then doing the work. And the way you connect with me is you can go to my website at heatherlena.com. You can go to Facebook at Healings with Heather and Instagram, and you can message me. You can email me at contactheatherlena.com. But let's start working on you. It doesn't matter where you live or where you're at. Let's just have a conversation and start working on yourself.
Energy knows no space and time, and that's why it can be done this way or long distance. And
Correct.
I just want to add, it's not therapy. It can be therapeutic, but for those who are like, I don't want to talk to anybody, I don't want to share anything, I'm kind of close. Good, great, no problem. It's all good.
Yeah, I'm not a therapist.
Right, exactly,
I'm a
exactly.
healer.
And we all have stuff to heal from. If you don't think you do, you need to look deeper. You need to look deeper. That's all.
Absolutely.
All right. Heather, thank you so much for today.
Thanks, Steve. We'll see
All
you
right.
soon.
You got it.
Okay.
We'll be right
Bye.
back.
Are you looking for even more of the podcasts and hosts that you love? The Podcast Business News Network is proud to announce that you now have even more ways to listen live. Check out the MyTuner Radio, online radio box, and Simple Radio apps on iOS and Android, or find us online. Search for Business News Network on mytuner-radio.com, or search Podcast Business News Network on streama.com and onlineradiobox.com/US. Take your podcast on the go and don't miss a minute of the action.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
For nearly 2,000 severely injured veterans, everyday life has become filled with barriers.
Day-to-day simple tasks can become pretty daunting.
I have to carry my chair up 2 flights of steps or have somebody do it for me.
What scares me the most is just the falling.
When I'm struggling with my house, I think, to have that one great barrier just knocked down, it's crucial.
Home for Our Troops is a wonderful nonprofit that builds a
Mortgage-free, fully adaptive, handicap-accessible house. And there's no catch.
It'll be our very first home that we've ever owned.
This is a game changer.
This is where your life begins again.
We need you to join us in completing this important mission. Please visit hfotusa.org and help build homes and rebuild lives.
Because of you, everything's going to be okay.